Till we're all growing a beard. A man's face should never be bare. We just want some facial hair. We're anticipating, yeah, everyone's waiting for a beard.
That's right. It's going good. You know, I went to bed last night, and it was like 98 degrees, right? Sweating. Supposed to be this like crazy cold front that comes in. I looked Lauren in the eyes. I said, it is not going to be like 50 degrees. I constantly forget that I live in Kansas and that overnight it can snow the next morning after it being 98 degrees. I do not understand this state. I don't understand this weather. I would hate to be a weatherman in this state. It is crazy, but it is like 50 degrees. But I'm super excited about a package that's coming tomorrow.
A package.
It is. I was really expecting you to be like, "Oh, what's that?" But
No,
no,
sorry.
it's
I just got a text message. Someone just let me know that when I clicked on my audio, I unmuted your audio, but not mine. So everyone saw my mouth moving, but no words. But that's okay because I say pretty much the same thing. Everything. Hey, Aaron, a package. What kind of package did you receive?
Thank you. Please read the script. Well, you see, I'm just kidding. If you guys think we script this, we're not that funny. Anyway, so Sam's birthday is next month, and I maybe got a little zealous. Lauren was like, "Hey, you know, it'd be really cool if we got him one of those big wheels." He really has like a big fascination with big trucks and likes big trucks and everything like that. So I started doing some Googling and some research. We went and looked at some at Academy and things like that. And I was like, oh, yeah, those are cool. Those are cool. And I was like, boom, we're buying them this one. It is way too expensive. I should not have bought it. Had to convince the grandparents to go in on the deal too. Luckily, I sold them both on it. It is this super cool 2-seat Jeep, and it's got
Yes.
bucket seats, and it has Bluetooth, and it has real lights, it has real rubber wheels, it has 3 different speeds, it holds up to 200 pounds, so if I keep losing weight I could probably ride in it one day. And so that's pretty cool. It is this awesome Jeep that's coming. It should come tomorrow, but the best part about it is it has this and we're not sponsored by them, so I won't say their name, but it has this device in it that was on Shark Tank, and so you know it's reliable. But it comes with a remote control for the parents.
Oh,
So even
fantastic.
though Sam's not even 2 years old yet, so he might be able to drive it like when I take him to an open field. But if we're going on a walk and he wants to ride in that instead of pushing that little plastic thing, yeah, baby, I'm gonna be driving him around in this remote control car. I'm so excited. It comes tomorrow. Lauren is like, "Now are you gonna wait and let him see it in October for his birthday?" And I'm like, "Nah, probably not." Yeah, he'll probably be riding it tomorrow.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see. I really want to put it together and see if it'll fit in the back of my car. So that we're gonna go to the Ozarks in October for his birthday, stay in a cabin for a week. And so I hope it can fit in my Edge, so I can pack around it and bring it.
Oh yeah. It'll fit in the back of your hedge.
You'd be surprised at what I can fit in the back of that Edge.
I
It's
know,
pretty
man.
big.
There's a hey this podcast brought to you by Ford.
That's right.
No,
Also not sponsored.
also not sponsored. We have a Ford Flex, And when we looked at it, we're rolling around and we were trying to decide between like an expedition because we needed the room, 3 big kids and always having, space and usually an extra kid or 2 along with us wherever we go. Yep. And the Flex was so small. I was like, there is no way in the world that has more space in it than that expedition. And I sat in it and I was like, man, where does this space come from? But it's it's a box, so it's square and it kind of sits low. There's so much headspace and you can fit so much stuff in the back of that, especially with the back seats folded down. So we've learned. Yeah. My kids say, when it comes to like packing for Christmas or long trips, they love watching me pack. It's like a odd game of Tetris, trying to figure out how everything can go in to fit just perfectly. So
it's a weird flex, but that's cool.
It is a weird flex about my flex. I like it.
That's right. We actually looked for a Ford Flex. That was one of the cars I wanted to, when we were looking to buy. I was actually looking for a Ford Flex. I was also looking for a Honda Element. I thought Honda Elements just looked really cool. So, and that's what I base all of my car purchases off of is looks.
Does it look cool? That's right.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
Well, I was always of the ilk that said, I will never be a minivan guy. I'll never drive a minivan.
Mm-hmm. Preach it.
And, Heather was watching kids from the house. So she was, had her little in-home daycare. I think Dustin was older. And I think we had Jody. So Jody was a baby, and she's loading, car seats in and out of everything. And
right.
She dropped off our Saturn at the dealership that I worked at, and the salesman gave her a minivan to drive. And so she went to the zoo in this minivan, and she left the zoo, and she came to my service drive and parked it on the drive, and she said, what time do you get off? And I said 6, and she said, okay, well, when you get off, we're going over here to the South store, and I'm buying this minivan. I'm like, no,
buying a minivan.
No. I swore I would never be that guy. But she loved her vans. The sliding doors was just it for her, being able to put car seats in and out of a sliding door.
I bet that would be so nice. Even in the Edge, it's a little bit. It's amazing how your convictions can change so easily. I mean, that could be a show right there, right?
Yeah.
Like how fast your convictions change when you're put in the environment.
That's right.
That you're talking about.
Test it out.
Let's try to fix this camera. So.
Last week we're talking about who needs sleep, right? This is one of those things that can change. At one point in your life, you're like, I could stay up all night. At some point, that lack of sleep begins to catch up with you. We talk.
That's such a true statement. Like, like some people, if we have a younger audience on here, which I'm sure we do, like I'm sure there's really young people watching this, but there's like that, you used to get up for early bird classes for high school, so you're there at school by 7, and you go to college and you sign up for an 8 a.m. class. And there is I don't know what it is, but there is no way that you're making it to that 8 a.m. on time, but you can stay up all night. You stay up all night at college and you're good and you're happy and you're fine. And then you become an adult and young youth minister, you're like, oh yeah, I can do this. Stay up all night, hang out with the boys, do all this kind of stuff. And then somewhere along the lines, you're just like, whew, it's 9 o'clock. I should probably go to bed.
We're sitting in the living room last night, and so because of our kids' school, they don't have school today. They're on virtual school, so they just have to have all their work turned in by midnight tonight. So normally we're up at 5:30 in the morning, getting ready for school. They leave the house about 6:30. So it's normally those mornings are really early, but Heather didn't have school today. The kids didn't have school today. And, so last night they're like, hey, we're going to watch a movie. We're staying up. Dylan's playing probably D&D or something with his buddies. And I'm sitting on the couch and I'm like, it's only 9:30 and I am so tired. 10:30 is usually the moment where all the phones get put away, everything gets plugged in, and, the lights in the house are out. The kids are still doing their stuff. But everything is shut down. By that point, it's we still have an hour to go. It's like, I don't know if I'm going to make it. I'm going to fall asleep right here in my chair. But those that, like, I can pull an all-nighter right now. But if I pull an all-nighter right now, I'm paying for it for 2 or 3 days. Like,
Right, yeah. That clock is harder to reset the older I get.
Yeah.
It's kind of like I had a buddy in Washington, Dennis Baker, a wonderful youth minister. I used to call him the White Ape. I don't think he enjoyed that, but but he'd done youth ministry for so long in Washington at the same church, Lakeview Church of Christ, and but anyway, he told me, I love Taco Bell. It's always been my Achilles heel.
Fourth meal, baby.
He'd be like, Aaron, you won't love Taco Bell after 30. Once you hit 30, Taco Bell's a little bit more of a conscious decision. You got to know where you're going to be afterwards. And I was like, I don't understand that. That didn't make sense to me. And that's like the truth. Like, as soon as I turned 30, like, Taco Bell got a little bit rough. Staying up like super late and then getting up super early. You know, I was like, why do I feel this way? This is not optimal. And now I'm in this weird thing where I'm going to bed at like 9:30 and I'm getting up at 7, and I hate the mornings. But I'm like, wake up at 7 and I'm like, what's up, world? Oh, nothing. Nothing is up. That's at 7 a.m.
They're up. You just have to find a different sphere to interact with in order to find those folks that are up early. Mm-hmm. I'm waiting for the day. You know, I've seen it with all of that older generation where they're like, I woke up at 4:30 today, so I just read the newspaper and started the coffee and just started the day. It's like, at 4:30? I'm waiting for that day to hit me. That's right. That's just when I'm getting rolling, man. I have my best dreams at 4:30 in the morning.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's when they start to happen.
Heather, I love my minivan. Come on, man.
I just saw that. Yeah, that's funny.
So let's think about, as we're talking about nighttime activities and crazy sleep. We talked a little bit last week about, so many of the things that carry us in tonight. And a couple weeks ago, we talked about, lock-ins.
Yeah.
One of the, the great challenges of particularly summer youth ministry, and then weekend kinds of things, is creating and finding activities for kids who are in a time and space where very little positive happens, right? I mean, my dad used to say nothing good happens after midnight. It's not that I don't trust you. It's just that if you're out past midnight, nothing good can come of that. So if you're here and you're at an all-nighter, or you have one of these overnight activities or camps that have late curfews, if you aren't occupying their time, something will be occupying their time, right? Yeah. So what are some, we talked about maybe share some of our best stories about overnight activities. Got anything that comes to your mind?
Oh, do I have the best, like, not the best, but the best to me. Well, and I want to talk about this too. So right before we jump into this, you talked about like, games and things, and I love Facebook. Actually, I hate Facebook, but I enjoy Facebook sometimes. But I had this lady, Jane Phillips, and she sent me this video of like really cool games, and they were all games to do with ping pong balls. Like, it was this video. They had like 30 games, and it just made me think, like, because I'd seen other youth ministers comment and use, and because this podcast is not affiliated, I don't feel bad talking about this, but like, at what point does a lock-in game come too close to like a drinking game, right?
Yeah, right.
Like, they had these like really cool games where, like, or the Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon is a great place to steal games from. But they always do that one where like you're supposed to like flip the cup, and get it to land upside down. That's a drinking game, right?
Right.
Like, a lot of these are like just drinking games that people invented, that now people are doing it without alcohol, which I think is great. But am I gonna get a call from that parent? Were you teaching my son how to like play a drinking game at a church event?
Cup.
Yeah, and all of these kind of things. So I'd always like, where do you draw the line? When is something too close related? So we played I used some of them, but I didn't use all the ones that I was like obvious that were like, that looks like a really fun game and I want to play that. But I don't want to prep kids for going to college and make bad decisions, or like, oh, we play this at church. Wait, what?
Yeah, this is something's different here.
That's right.
No,
Yeah,
that is a challenge. Is finding,
wholesome
blurred lines. Not the song, but actually blurred lines. Really is a challenge because we don't even want to paint this image that of walking in both worlds is already a great enough challenge.
Absolutely.
And surely we are creative enough to be able to borrow ideas from other spaces, or or create our own. Yeah. And Jonathan said, I'm such a night owl. My wife has to be up at 5. That balance is hard. When you have, my job that takes me into some of these spaces, and maybe my wife that does something different. We're working on a podcast where we talked about kind of balancing, family and family activities and identities, and how that kind of works out, and it plays into that a lot. It's hard.
I'm looking forward to. I think that'll be one that we might have our first guest on. So that'll be exciting. Okay, so really good story. This is young Aaron. Like, if I could go back in time and tell Aaron what to expect in the future. Okay, so the scene is not a lock-in, but a fall retreat. We do a fall retreat. Josh, I think there's something wrong with your camera. Your shirt looks kind of purple. Oh boy. Okay, I'm not gonna look at comments. They're distracting. So this is at a fall retreat, and if you're one of my teenagers, I direct the junior high and the senior high camps at Tallgrass, and it's very different from when we do a fall retreat. And I try to make it very different, and I explicitly tell my teenagers to say, "Hey, fall retreat, we play night games, baby." Oh yeah,
that's right.
There's nothing more fun than playing a night game. Or at least I hype it up enough that they think it's really fun. And so here we are. We're playing this night game, and it's some version of tag that I've created, right? And sweet girl, Micah Steele, really nice. Would never complain about anything. I mean, you have to sleep on the floor. She's like, "Oh, this is a great experience," AC's out in summer. Wow, we're really learning to be blessed about AC when we have it. I mean, just like super positive kiddo. So we're playing some version of tag, and she plays all night, has a really great time. I don't see her that night. The next morning, this is when the story gets interesting. The next morning, she comes with her tray of food, and she sits down in front of me. She has got this red line. I mean, just right across her neck. Like, and not just like faint, like marker, like bright red. And I'm going, what? What is this? Like, what's going on? Apparently, we all know the phrase getting clotheslined. Apparently, we were playing the night game and she was running, and they have these wire clotheslines hanging up between poles outside, and she was running and just right on the throat. Goes and checks in with our nurse. By the way, I have an actual nurse who's there for that weekend. She checks her out, feels everything. Nothing's bruised, nothing's broken. Does not tell me. And comes, and I see her the next morning. And I'm like, what are you? Why did you not tell me this? By the way, it's now Sunday, and I'm about to drive the kids back in to see their parents. And her dad is like super ripped. I mean, like, doesn't, like, you couldn't tell on Sunday morning, but like, he went to Worlds of Fun, a roller coaster park with us, and wore a tank top. And I was like, whoa, like, where'd you get those guns? Like, guy works out like every day on KU's campus. And I was like, oh, I cannot wait to tell you that your precious older daughter has this, like, look like somebody was trying to strangle her with a clothesline around her neck. I mean, just intense, just crazy.
Yeah, so the last time we ever played Gargoyles at one of our lock-ins, for those of you who don't know, Gargoyles is some bizarre kind of, I don't even know what to compare it to. We would hide parts of a flashlight all over the building, turn all the lights off, and there are some people who are protectors and some people who are seekers, and the gargoyles are trying to prevent people from finding the pieces of the flashlight. Well, Dylan was young, and you know how it goes with youth ministers with young kids. They're kind of just like, they end up being the youth group mascot because they're there for everything. They're always around, and finding ways for them to be entertained, especially at a lock-in. They had to kind of participate. Well, there are two people running opposite directions down a hallway, and both of them meet the corner at the same time. And my young Dylan was one of them, and he ended up with a knot on his forehead. When I heard it, I'm envisioning like teeth being scattered on the floor, broken noses. Yeah, it was just a big knot, but he was down for the count. He wanted to sleep well. Of course, with a head injury, it's like, hey,
right,
you can't go to sleep. Like I need
That's
to monitor you for a little bit, And so that was that's when we kind of had to rethink, right? This was really good in theory, but having 45 people running around a building in the pitch dark, searching for something, with the added adrenaline of some form of competition, probably not a good mix. Dodgeball was the other one that we loved to play late at night, but the problem with dodgeball is great while dodgeball is going on. When you get done playing dodgeball, you have a whole bunch of sweaty kids in a confined space.
Right.
That does not make for a good recipe for the rest of the night.
You gotta have some fans going.
That's right.
What about and I'll preference this, and you can decide while you answer this one, because should I tell him about the experience of telling the blood moon story? You made me think of it because of your son Dylan, and he was there that night. I don't want to embarrass him.
Oh, he's good.
Think about it, but oh, he's good. Tell it.
Yeah.
But
He
what
still
about
talks about it.
really great ideas that just turned out to be really bad, or vice versa, like games that you thought that are like the dumbest games you could have ever played, but because it's 2 a.m. at a lock-in, it's the best game that's been ever played.
Yeah, or trying to duplicate that 2 a.m. game at 2 in the afternoon.
Yeah, this is stupid.
Why
did I think this was fun?
Have you ever watched Monty Python and the Holy Grail in the middle of the day by yourself? Like, it's only funny when you're working on low sleep and all your friends are around to laugh at things with. And
Right.
I'm trying to think, like, specifically. I can't think of a specific one. I know they're there because at 2 a.m. you're kind of just like, okay, I've got to occupy these people with something.
Right.
And, the lack of sleep often puts you in this state of just, I don't care. We're just having fun.
Mm-hmm.
And when nobody really cares and we're just kind of enjoying ourselves,
Yeah.
The inhibitions kind of go away. I'm not trying to hold up my guard saying, oh, I'm too cool for this game. No, it's 2 a.m. and I'm tired. And I'm just trying to stay awake because I don't want to be the guy that falls asleep first. So, yeah,
right.
I'll try anything to stay awake.
Yeah.
Makes,
right, for you guys who are,
makes a lot of bad ideas really good. So,
for you guys who are watching, what we're talking about is Josh and I had this really, really bad good idea. And it was back when like smartwatches had just started like coming out, and I had a smartwatch, and so I downloaded the whistle ringtone from Kill Bill, and I was going to use my watch to set it off, but I was going to preference it because none of the kids at this junior high camp knew or seen Kill Bill, rightfully so. They shouldn't watch it. And so we go to this outdoor cabin, and I tell this ridiculous story. And if you want to make a story scary, like, you got to add something that's kind of scary. Well, first off, for anybody wanting to tell a scary story, how you tell a scary story is there always has to be enough truth to it that you don't believe it. So when I told the story, I talked about Oklahoma Christian University and the land there. Why? Because all of those kids have been to Oklahoma Christian University. 2, I referenced things that they would know enough about to not know anything about it,
Right.
if that makes sense. Like enough where you think you know what's going on. So I tell this story and I talk about a blood moon and all of this kind of stuff. And I talk about how like we accidentally summoned a demon and all this kind of stuff. It's kind of intense. And how it like haunted me and how I'd never seen my roommate again. By the way, I had mentioned my roommate by name and all this kind of stuff. And when the demon was coming, we always heard like this tune. Josh was just whistling it not too long ago. And so that was the major point, was that the tune was heard in these kids' head. And then at the end of it, I tell him, hey, go to bed. Aaron, was that a true story? He said, I don't know anymore. It's hard for me to know what's real and what's not. I just try to have to think about it. And I appreciate you guys allowing me to share this with you. Well, I leave. I leave and we wait like 45 minutes. Like we go and play. And by the way, I had stashed my phone in the rafters of their cabin before they had even gone in there, so that they couldn't like hear it, but they could just kind of hear it. And so we leave. We go play ping pong. We play like 3 or 4 games. I won all of them.
Hogwash.
Anyway, we go back out to this outdoor cabin. It's like pitch black. It's now like really late, like 1-2 a.m. Talk about a late night. And I get my phone out, I get my watch out, and my watch, I don't even have my watch on. I get my watch out and it connects to my phone, and I hit the find me button, which plays my ringtone, which is that whistle that was in that story. And all of a sudden I hear one of the kids wake up and go, do you guys hear that? And I stop it. And they're like, what are you talking about? I heard the whistle. No, just go back to bed. I waited another 10-15 minutes. Like, this was a late night prank. Hit it again. Guys, I hear it too. I had never seen some junior high boys. These were their older junior, like 8th graders. And then Dylan, who was real young. Like, I don't know, like if he was there early or if he was like, I don't know if he came because dad was there or if he was the right age. I can't remember. But we had it going, and I did this like 3 or 4 more times. And it was so funny because all of a sudden they all started singing Jesus Loves Me, like all these songs and everything. And I hear one kid go, Mom. And I go, uh-oh, this is not a good idea. They're not supposed to have their cell phones. So we walk into the cabin, I turn the lights on, and he's like on his phone with his mom. And I hear his mom go, it was just a dumb story. Don't call me. And like hung up on him. And at that point I had known like, oh, we went too far. I had one 8th grader wet the bed because he was so scared. I had another kid who called his mother on the cell phone. And then poor Dylan was so terrified that he went and slept with his dad that night in his bunk in our cabin.
When we went in and turned the lights on, he is like down in his sleeping bag pulled up over his head, and he's just like, so I had to take him up to the calf. I had to go get him a little, cookie and something to kind of calm him down a little bit. He was good though. Hey, he was a champ after that,
Oh yeah.
I did not expect him to sleep in that cabin the rest of the week. But
that was the night that I stopped. I have never told a scary story at camp since. Like it was so bad that I have never told. Now I will go in and I will tell semi-fake like college funny stories and things like that to the kids.
Yeah. But
they asked, they're like, and to this day, like I still have kids, Josh. I don't know if you know this, but like there's still kids that come up and say, hey, can you tell me the blood moon story? Like those kids are all graduated, and there are still kids like new 7th and 8th graders coming. Can you tell me the blood moon story? Come on, tell us the blood moon story, please. Guys, I don't even know the Blood Moon story. Like, I made it up on the spot.
Oh.
Like, it was so bad. And I remember our preaching minister, Terry Kitson, who's like the old guy at camp, like just the sage, wise man. You know, like I remember telling the story and him just going, yeah, I wouldn't have done that. I'm like, I know you wouldn't have done it, but I did. Like I feel bad about it. Like, yeah, it was bad. It was bad.
Yeah. So I still ask him about that from time to time. Dylan, not Terry. And he's like, he always says, "Oh yeah, I remember." Like
Every detail.
Yeah. Bryce just said, Bryce, I forgot Bryce was the counselor in that cabin.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That's how we stashed the phone. Because I gave it to Bryce to stash in there. Oh my, Bryce, that was like you were green, weren't you? It was like your first or second year there.
Yeah, that had to have been his first year there because Dylan was really young. I think Dylan was there early. I think Dylan was only there because I was there. So I think he was like an incoming sixth grader.
Poor kid.
Yeah, I asked him. He's like, "Oh yeah, I remember that." Like,
it was so bad.
And he is like the last person you will take to any kind. Like, he doesn't watch scary movies. He doesn't go to the 13th gate. He never went to Worlds of Fun with all the, Oktoberfest and stuff. Yeah, he's like, no. If it's scary, I'm out.
Yeah, it was bad. That was such a. I cannot believe. Like, looking back now, I'm like, oh, Aaron, why did you think that was a good idea?
Well, I mean, the thing is, like you said, it was so cheesy.
Mm-hmm.
That it was obviously a fake story to a semi-mature adult mind.
Right.
But, when you're dealing with, kids and, kids who are in that space, sometimes it's hard to predict how things are going to go off. This is what I think is cheesy and corny. You're like, that just might be true.
Well, and to be fair, I think I got a little carried away with the story. I mean, I like to tell a good story, and these kids were like on their bunks, really into it, and I was like, oh, we're ramping it up. I mean, I had the flashlight with my hand over it, and oh yeah. I mean, let's be fair, like I didn't go light on them. Okay, so like a lock-in game that was like really stupid that I can't believe like the kids request to play. We have this game called The Lighthouse. And it is so dumb. So you have a guy who's standing at the pulpit with one of those giant big flashlights that nobody should own, and he just does this in a dark auditorium. Like, he just does that. My wife had created this really cool, like, she just got on my MacBook and used GarageBand and created this really cool techno beat, and then, like, she recorded me saying, "Hariba!" Like, and so the whole point was you get all of these Tootsie Rolls and you throw them all over the auditorium just randomly. And your goal as a team is to go into the auditorium, grab as many Tootsie Rolls as you can, and then get them back to your base. And the team with the most Tootsie Rolls wins. If you get hit by the light, at any point the light touches you, you have to drop all your Tootsie Rolls and you go back. If at any time you're in the auditorium and the phrase "Arriba!" or whatever it was, like, goes over the speakers, you're dead and you have to go back. There's no death limit or anything like that. Like, you just have to restart basically. And these kids like just ate it up. Like, they played it for like 4 hours. They just kept wanting to play. And that was the whole game. That was the entire game. Just grabbing Tootsie Rolls and getting them out without being the sound.
Don't get hit by the light.
I cannot believe. And I give credit to my youth minister, Ben Cook, who created the game. I'll just say that I perfected it. Since when he did it in our youth group, we had a girl jump over a pew and hit the bookshelf and then have to get like 4 stitches in her forehead. We didn't have that. But I mean, I just, like, the dumbest game. Like, you can't play that anywhere else and be like, that was a great game. Oh, but I do have a really good game, but I've been talking a lot.
That's okay. This is like in our partnership, these spaces is where your creativity like shined, right? Because there was like I can take a game and adapt it pretty well, but like coming up with some of these newfangled ideas, not really in my wheelhouse. But I will say, so somebody asked me about a mentorship, right? And I said one of the best parts about some of my mentorships has been the reciprocation of that. And I think about, I've got you by a few years. Our experience level isn't that different, but life experience is. The kids are older, your kids are coming up. So in marriage and stuff, there's been this kind of a mentor kind of a role, but it's not one-sided. It's not like I have so much wisdom to give you. There's this sharing of experiences and gifts that comes about. So I think about these moments.
True.
And we talk about that brain trust where we're in here. There are some ways that my mind and my brain really works. And sometimes it's just being in a room together. Like it's like I just need to like be here and kind of feed off of some of your energy. And but these games and things, just so much goes into them though. Like you said, some of the things that we put the most time and energy into are some of the ones that actually end up being some of the worst ideas.
Right.
In function. I mean, the best ideas, but they just didn't execute well. But those that you kind of come up with on the spot is like, oh, I can take some of this and some of this, and I can put them together, and we can make this work.
Right.
It just works. Jonathan, I'm gonna have to read this. I can't go through all this later, but I've heard about this story at Smiling Acres up here. The crazy man in the woods. There's always a crazy man in the woods at church camp. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know why.
Johnny Zipper.
Johnny Zipper. I think about other aspects of this though that bring us into, because we're talking about sleep and sleep patterns, and our sleep patterns change. Not only throughout our life, but also throughout the year when it comes to ministry. Because, when summer starts and it's like, all right, so this is awesome because we got all these fun things planned. Well, by the end of the summer, you're longing for structure. You're longing for stability. Right. You're longing for this time where kids have to go to bed early and nobody's calling me at 10:30 at night going, hey, let's go do something. Yeah. But then, once school starts, sleep is still often, hard to come by. And I think about, I thought when I left the car business, one of the reasons I left the car business is because of what stress was doing to me. Right. There was stress, there was pressure. On the 30th of the month, you're the hero, but tomorrow's the 1st. And when we start on the 1st, you go from hero to zero overnight. And it's just this constant state of starting over. And there's so much pressure and so much stress that it was really having a negative effect on my family, on my home, on my own health. And so I got into ministry, and guess what? The stress is still there.
How dare you follow me?
It's just different, right? It's just different stress. It's the stress of the things that our kids are going through. It's the stress of the things that families are going through. It's the stress of the phone calls you get of someone who's lost a loved one or whose, children are going through difficulties, or, our students who are facing something at school, or maybe something's happened at their school and they're wearing that. Yeah. And so, those things, it moves from activities and fun stuff keeping us up to just ministry and what am I going to do about this? How am I going to cope with this? How am I going to help this person or that person, or what's going to transpire in a week that's going to happen? That really has a tendency to mess with our sleep structure as well. So it's not just about the fun stuff. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, let me just insert real quick because I love the train you're going on. And I don't think people sometimes understand, so you hold office hours, because at some point, like, you do need to sit down at a desk and get some logistics done, and turn in receipts, all that kind of stuff that you need to do. So you work office hours, but then, like, what happens when the office is closed? Well, our office closes at, actually, I don't really know. It's either 3:30 or 4:30. That's probably a bad. Can we edit that part out? Anyway, our office closes at 3:30. Well, when does school get out for our kids? Well, 3:30. So I just worked, like, office hours all day. Got there at 9, worked till 3:30 in the office. But then, the kids are out of school, so now's the time where I get to either go hang out with kids or go enjoy, a basketball game or a baseball game or a volleyball, lacrosse. That would be cool if I could get some teens into lacrosse. I'd like to. Anyway, and so it's just interesting how, like, your Monday can go from work, and I understand that, like, parents do this, right? Like, oh, well, I do that, Aaron. And I get that, but there's difference about, like, when you go and you're enjoying it and it's your kids and you're having that connection with other parents and stuff like that. And when a youth minister goes, like, I get to enjoy it quite a bit, right? But at the same time, you're working, you are striving to build relationships with parents. Hey, I want you to know that your teen is important to me. And so I'm here and I'm sitting close to you. And connecting with you, and I want to know your friends, because if they come to church with you, because you're supposed to be inviting them and talking to them and studying with them, hopefully that they'll meet another friendly face and they'll see me there. I want to make sure your team knows that I'm here supporting them and cheering them on and what they're doing. And so there's a difference, and so it's almost like this is really bad, but we just had to replace our AC unit here, and it got me thinking, like, I have this little AC unit up here in the tower, as my wife calls it, up here, and it usually runs, like, in the summer 24/7. And our AC guy goes, well, when I'm changing an AC unit for somebody else and the guys behind me is running the entire time I'm there and never takes a break, I start to think I should probably go give that person my call, because they're going to have AC problems soon, because if that thing's running 24/7 and never getting a break, you're going to have some problems. And I was like, did I just get, like, spiritual insight from
from AC man?
AC repairman? Yeah, I did. Because it's like, and this is what happens to me in the summer or even during the school year. Mainly this happens to me more in the school year, because there's a chaoticness to summer. But, like, usually, like, I'm going to hang out with kids in the morning, or I'm going to hang out with kids at night. But during the school year, it's like I'm trying to work and get everything done and planned. And then in the night, I'm still hanging out with teens, and when do I go pick up my son? When do I get to see my wife? When do we get to sit down and have a family dinner, sitting around a table, and not in a car, or something like that?
Yeah.
And that's what gets really hard as a youth minister. And I appreciate what Jonathan said up here. He said, well, I'm a late night guy and my wife's an early morning guy, and that balance is really rough. And as a minister, that balance is really rough on when do I get to turn the switch off. That's difficult, and that's hard.
And when you talk about activities with your your youth group or your youth kids, and I even think about the church as a whole, as a preaching minister, if you can spend time with that one kid, you can go to his one activity, but it doesn't matter if you have 3 kids or 13 kids or 30 kids in your youth group. If you're spending time with one, it's important to make sure that the others that are there also receive the same kind of priority at some point. I always kind of chuckled at Heather's grandmother. She passed away a little while back, but at Christmas time,
Weird thing to laugh about.
Yes, thanks. At Christmas time, she would spend the exact same amount on every grandchild.
Oh, man.
So much so that, let's say it was $20. She would spend $20 on every grandchild.
Oh, yeah.
So if what she bought for Dustin was $17.27, he would receive the gift, and then he would receive an envelope with the change.
That's awesome.
Because in her mind, it was, this great sense of equality. Nobody wants to be considered favorite. Even if the grandkids never went around and compared, what do you think Tasha grandma spent on our Christmas gifts? In her mind,
Right.
the equality in that was so, so important. And I think of that, like I have some really, really, really good friends, in the church. And, my temptation is to want to spend so much time with them that it kind of occupies some things that I have to do with some other folks as well. When the truth is, because of our position, we have to be mindful that everyone who we are called to serve deserves in moments that same kind of priority and attention.
Sure.
And that's where it really, if it was just one event, that would be one thing. But if you've got 10 or 15 kids in the youth group and you've been to this one young man's football game, well, now I've got 19 other kids going, hey, you've never been to my game. I gave you my schedule too. And so now I have to kind of find ways of showing them that matters.
That's the catch, though, right? I always find myself sometimes in a pickle where, well, you never came to my game. Well, you never gave me your schedule.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so, hey, what is perfect is if you find one who's playing the other.
Yes.
Hey, guess what? Hey, 4 of my kids are in this event, so I'm choosing this one.
Oh, bingo!
That's right.
Youth group bingo right there, man.
That never happens. It never happens.
Never. No, they all go to different high schools, and they all are in different, 2A, 3A, whatever. And none of them ever play each other. We had for a while where Topeka High played Washburn Rural, and I could see some guys play football. I had some people who were team managers and things like that. And so I was usually at those ones I could go. But the problem was I would tell them all that I was going, and then I would still have to hunt them all down and try to find them and things like that. So
help me out, man. Come on.
Usually, there was one time I was sitting on the Washburn Rural side, and I saw some of my girls from T High, and they were in the other stands on the other side, but I could recognize them. So instead, I got my phone out and I was like, whoop, click, and tag them on Instagram. Nice seeing you girls at the game. I was like, I'm walking all the way over there. They thought that was pretty funny.
Oh, this is cute, Aaron. Your son is saying hi to me.
Oh, Sam, you're saying hi to Josh. He likes Josh. Well, he did a long time ago when he saw him. Probably doesn't know you now.
It's been a year, man. That's hard to believe.
I know. He'll be 2 in October.
Oh. Well, man, I'm tired. I need a nap after all this talk about losing sleep.
Let me share one more thing. One more thing.
I'll allow it.
One more thing. Okay, thank you. Best game after a giant flop. So I don't even remember this was a fall retreat. All my best games come at fall retreat. I can't remember the theme of the weekend, which makes me really, really terrible youth minister. But I thought it would be a great idea to share with the teens one of my favorite movies growing up. One guess. Very Northwest movie. One guess. What do you think? 90s. Early 80s. Late 80s. Early 90s.
No clue.
Free Willy.
Oh, yeah. It is a very Northwest movie.
Okay.
That's right.
So I thought my kids would eat this up. I've never seen teens more bored in my life. So to make up for it, I said, okay, guys, we're going to now play a game called Free Willy. And my wife was awesome, and she helped create this game. And so my wife and I, we got this 6-foot inflatable whale, orca whale, and we got glow sticks, those long ones, and we securely taped them around the entire body of the whale and broke them all and then inflated it. And the point of the game was to leave. You would have loved this, Josh. We played it when it was absolute dark, and I turned off every light at Tallgrass that I could find to turn off. Every light, even the motion censored ones. And your goal was to take the 6-foot glow in the dark whale, and you had to hide somewhere. And when I rang the bell, your goal was to free Willy. So you had to get him and make it back inside the lodge with nobody tagging you. This game lasted for hours. But the best part was at one point, there was a kid down in the softball field, and I'm standing on the porch looking, and all of a sudden I see this glow-in-the-dark whale figure go up in the air. This is all you can see. And then all of a sudden you see this. Like, you could see the kid running, and the fins were flapping up and down. And all of a sudden I heard somebody go, "There's Willie!" And all of the teens just like sprinted towards, and then all of a sudden you saw Willie go into the tall grass. And I didn't see what happened after that. But it was one of those games that was just like so dumb, but it was so great because you had an inflatable whale and you had glow sticks. And those are two things that will make any game better and fun. And nighttime, which honestly, if you have a really bad game, just play it at night, outside.
Right. Hey, if it flopped during the day, play it at
twice as
night.
good. Mm-hmm.
So hey,
So
you just solved the
that's how we
secret
played Free
of
Willy.
solved the secret of youth ministry, right? If you want to be a good youth minister, just play a game at night with a blow up whale and glow sticks.
That's right. Easy.
Easy
I
stuff.
teach school.
Oh, this is good stuff, man. I appreciate your time today, and
I enjoy it too. It's fun to talk about the serious things like time management and the expectations. And it is amazing at how a little action of going to somebody's basketball game can make somebody else in your youth group frustrated or upset. You know what I mean? Or parents, and they might not ever tell you about it. But it's also good to talk about the funny things and the fun stuff too.
Yep, that's right. Keeps us sane.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. At least closer to that line of sanity.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I don't have anything else, man. Not for this. I think we've sufficiently beaten tiredness to a pulp. Maybe
I think
not.
so too. It was a lot of fun. Hey, we wanna thank you all for being here today, and as we remove the beards of our minister, and what we mean by that is as we take a deeper look at youth ministry and preaching ministry, and we reveal the humans behind the job, because we need to remember that we're all human and that this world is messy, and that it's not easy for anyone. So we want to remind you before we leave to look at Galatians 6:9. We want to remind you to not grow weary in doing good. You're going to have ups, you're going to have downs, but don't grow weary in doing good. Doing good is such an important part of spreading the love of Christ to everyone around us. So allow Christ to use you and do something different, something good in his name. I'm Aaron Partlow, and this is Josh, and we will see you next week on Behind the Beards.
We're all growing a beard. A man's face should never be bare. We just want some facial hair. We're anticipating, yeah, everyone's waiting for a beard.